Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson, and if you're a recruiter out on your own or just lacking general advice or mentorship, you've come to the right place. Our episodes are designed to give you motivation, the strategies, and the support you need to become the very best lone recruiter. So join us, grab a cup of coffee, let's take your desk to another level. Now today, I want to talk about creating longevity as a recruiter in your market. There are a lot of recruiters that I see, because I try to recruit a lot of them, that are hopping jobs every 6 to 12 months. Now, that's your prerogative. You can do what you want. A lot of those recruiters, from my understanding, are just resourcing roles, right? You're probably jumping into businesses that have good, strong panel appointments and have got a flurry of work, or it's maybe a cyclical market, or it's a short-term contract, whatever it might be. There is a camp of recruiters that will move a lot. They're not too concerned about reputation because they're going from medical to sciences to blue collar to IT, and they can just behave in a way that we're filling jobs and moving on, right? But then there's the other camp of recruiter, right, which sticks to the job for a long term, has a very defined market they recruit in and have done so for a very long time. And reputation is key for those sort of recruiters, right? Because it becomes, how they behave, their results, it feeds the next year and the next year and the next year. And you can't survive in a specialist market if you behave like an absolute dickhead, right? It's as simple as that. And we all have competitors that we hear about that they go, oh my God, I just don't like working with those people. They're so annoying, or they do cowboy stuff, or they're headhunted from us, or whatever. And typically they're either junior recruiters who just don't know better, or they are those recruiters who come in, fly out, and they're gone before you know it, right? So they cause a mess and pain. They piss off a lot of people and they have to move on. So if you're in that camp that's building longevity, that really thinks that your reputation is key to your success, or you might be at the beginning of your career thinking, that's what I want. I love my market. I like my clients. This episode's for you because you probably know this already, but I want to harp on this point. It is really easy to look good when the going is good. So when you're making placements with a client and they're really happy with your results, that's like, great, high five, this is great, let's have a coffee. How good are we? Yeah, we're good, we're great, we're both great. But what about the opposite? What about when things don't quite go your way? Maybe you don't fill the role. How do we handle that? What if we do place the role, but the person's crap, or the person doesn't quite fit, or the person leaves? How are we handling that part? What about like double introductions? What about, you said the wrong thing or you behaved, something happens. It is in those pain points, it is in those little agitation points that your reputation is built. It's not in the good times. People assume as a recruiter, that's what you're here to do, is to deliver on recruitment services. And if you can do it with a smile and get along with your clients as you do it and become friends with them, even better. But the real trust will come when there's a bit of conflict, when there's a bit of a battle, when there's a bit of a trouble, right? So I want you to ask yourselves, how do you handle that? Because it's very easy when there's a double introduction to just go on the offensive. It's very easy when, I can't give, what's another great example? Where a candidate leaves 2.5 months into 3 months, or like maybe even 3 or 4 months into the job and it's outside of your rebate period or your replacement period. You get my drift. There's always these little pain points between you and a client where, theoretically, you could argue your point and be correct. But there's still a human element behind these transactions. And if they walk away feeling like they've been hard done by, if they walk away feeling like you're a little bit of a dick, it doesn't match how you were behaving when things were going good. It's how we behave when things aren't going great. If you're not acting in a way that's courteous, understanding, flexible, a meeting of the minds and maybe giving up a little bit and not being so hard-nosed and stiffed about your position. Trust me, I've been recruiting for 18 years in my sectors, and it will serve you really bloody well. People will say, I like you, Brett, because you're reasonable. I like you because you tell me you can't do it, or you're open with your thinking. Look, 9 times out of 10, I get my way. We party, we get the results, I get paid what I want. But every now and then, you have example, a client comes to me yesterday and says, Brett, you floated someone through to us. We took them on. They've been okay, but they're not quite what we need. This was, we got a 90-day replacement period. This is 5 months in. Good client. I've done heaps of work with them. They pay on time. Really enjoy working with them. Great brand to have on the books. And my response to him is, I tell him what the hard line is. Look, our terms are 90 days to do a free replacement, but I understand that you've invested in this person. It hasn't worked out. I'll be flexible for the sake of relationship. I'll replace it. Don't worry. I'll look after you. I mean, part of me goes, God damn it, I've got to freaking replace this, right? But think big picture. Zoom out. What am I doing? That client now goes, I can trust Brett when shit hits the fan that he's going to actually have my back and support me, right? It's not his business. So he now looks good within that business. Yeah, I've got to do another free replacement, but guess what? That client's coming back to me for more. Let's just play out the opposite here. I say, nah, sorry, look, it says 90 days. That's on you. You should have contacted me earlier. It is what it is. They're our terms. We've all been there, right? And we might play that line if it's a client that we're not too fond of or they've treated us a bit, whatever. But let's just play that bit out. How is my client feeling in that scenario? He's going, okay, well, logically, okay, that's the line. I signed those terms, fine. But next time I float a CV in, what's he going to do? He's going to think twice. He is going to think twice because he needs to now think, he's looking at it through the lens of, this has burnt me once before. We've got to be a little bit more careful when we hire through Brett. And that's what you don't want because that's going to affect you going forward. And if you're a long-term minded recruiter and you're thinking big picture, you don't want those hurdles in your way. You want the doors freely open to come in and come out with your candidates, with your ideas, having those meetings, and they need a sense that you got their back. There is business commerciality around this stuff, but, how I point these things out and how I react to them, people might say I'm soft. But hey, I've got a good client network, and it's in those painful moments of your transactions, of your recruiting life, or in sales in general. That is where the trust is built. That is where he's a trusted advisor. We really appreciate his efforts. This is where he's our guy. That's where that comes from. It's not from just delivering up the top here, okay? And trust me, if you're around long enough in the market, the shit will come. At some point, there will be some sort of shit that happens. We've all been there, right? Just stop for a moment, take your emotion out of it, take your pain out of it, put yourself in their shoes. What's their pain? What's their frustration? Because I can tell you now, if you don't act appropriately, they're already thinking, bloody recruiters, just in it for a fee. Guarantee it. But if you can prove to them that you're more than that you have their back, long-term, baby, guarantee it. I learned something very interesting this week that I thought I've never heard this before, which is we have 3 brains, okay? And this I'll probably do a whole episode on this, but we have 3 brains. We've got the logical brain, in the head, duh. That's logical. It's thoughts, it's logic. We now have our second brain, which is our gut, right? And our stomach, our gut instincts, like what's our gut feeling on this? That's a second brain in terms of making a decision. And our third brain, you can guess it, is your heart, right? Your emotions. And guess what? When something happens, when there is a point of friction, when something happens between you and a client that they don't like or whatever, the first reaction is the heart. It's the emotional response. And now that's out of your control. That is how they are wired. But most people will have an emotional response to an event, and then their logic kicks in and starts to rationalize. But that emotional response needs to be serviced. It needs to be heard, and it needs to be acknowledged. And if you can do that with empathy, with understanding, with support, with I've got your back, let's have a rational conversation about this, trust me, you're building relationships for the long term. So I hope someone got something out of this. We probably already know this stuff, but I love shining lights on little things like this because it helps us realize, reflect, recognize, and hopefully someone got something out of it. So that's all we have time for you today. If you got anything, like, share, subscribe, helps us grow. Thank you. You are doing it. I see it. I appreciate you. Thank you. Have an amazing day. And as always, may all your deals come true.